Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, this is more fairy music.
It is.
This is winter fairy music, not Christmas fairy music. Oh,
There is
Quindel,
apparently a
well,
subtle difference.
It's not even subtle. It's a significant difference, and if you can't hear it, I can't explain it.
Okay. Good to know.
Good to know. Oh, good morning. Wowzers, if you've been out today, you know it is chilly willy out. And if you haven't, I suggest stay in as long as you can.
Yes. Don't be in a rush to be outside today.
Yeah. I hope you're staying warm too, Anne. So, we're going to read something to you today and just talk about it a little bit because I think it's particularly powerful. But I think we have to give a little bit of backstory and then a qualifier, which I didn't discuss this with you. So you can give the qualifier because I think you'll know what I'm talking about. So we're taking our inspiration from Russell Brand, who's an English comedian and actor. I use actor loosely. He's been in some films.
He's a rock star too, I think, isn't he?
Oh, I don't know that. He's in many, many ways, he's like a modern day jester. He's kind of a buffoon. And part of it is that he's got a pretty Cockney accent and he plays preposterous characters. And I believe that he is a recovering drug and alcohol addict. I'm almost certain of that. I should have checked before we got on. Okay. But as buffoonish as he can be, he often will get on a live stream or get on a talk show and will reveal what is so often true of people who play dumb or foolish or hysterical characters, that they are actually very, very smart and thoughtful. For instance, after Bruce Jenner transitioned to Caitlyn Jenner and the media was really cruel to her, Russell Brand came on and just said, "What's it to you? What do you care? If she feels better in her own skin as a woman, what is it to you?"
Yeah.
So I have often watched him and sort of started out with that kind of, what are you going to say to me that I'm going to care about Russell Brand, you doorknob? And of course walked away and thought, wow, that was very profound. So that's the premise to this. But the preface is that what we're about to say would imply that Dr. Mary grew up in a really rough household.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I didn't.
So why don't you just clear that up,
I did
please?
not. I grew up in the same place as Liz, or as you lot know her as the Queen.
Well, not exactly the same place.
It's a Dickens village.
Yes, it is. But who cares about what it looks like? I'm talking about your little household unit.
Oh, yes, incredibly very happy. I had a fantastic mother. My father was...
You still have a fantastic mother.
I still have a fantastic mother. My father, unfortunately, he wasn't here anymore, was brilliant. I had one of possibly the best fathers ever. Yeah.
And a sister.
And a sister,
a good sister. Sorry,
sister,
Jane.
fantastic sister too.
I don't feel like we're using our adjectives very well today.
It's too cold outside.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, we had both of our parents didn't get a chance to get an education, so they instilled it in both of my big sister and I, and we.
She's highly educated. She's an accountant.
Yeah. We both went to college. Jane was the first married to ever go to college. I was the second, and there's been a few after that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that. Because
a lot of my mum's side of the family, of course, all went to college. But it's from my dad's side.
Just to put that in context, Dr. Mary has 79 first cousins, so it's a big deal. And his dad was the baby of 13, so there would be a lot of cousins older than Jane and Maz.
So yeah, and then we instilled that in our children too. I mean,
yep.
My sister's two children. The oldest, Joseph, my godson, is unfortunately trapped in I've gone to university, but I've got to spend this semester in my bedroom at home. And
yep.
There is a chance, though, at the end of February, he might be able to go back to actually the dorm, but that's a bit up in the air.
Also off topic.
And her very high achieving soon-to-be 16-year-old is busy in grammar school doing her thing to start
to
her
hopefully
future.
go be a doctor, I think is what she's leaning towards.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think that's important. This was a house where family dinners were important.
Yeah, we ate
where
at 6 o'clock.
time together
And we
was
spent time together.
Yeah, was a given. So
In fact, it was so successful that I was given my Thursday treat. I could have my dinner in front of the TV on a Thursday so I could watch Star Trek on BBC Two.
and that started it all.
Yes.
All right. So with that premise, and with the understanding that this is many people, not all people, Russell Brand says this: cannabis isn't a gateway drug. Alcohol isn't a gateway drug. Nicotine isn't a gateway drug. Caffeine isn't a gateway drug. Trauma is the gateway. Childhood abuse is the gateway. Molestation is the gateway. Neglect is the gateway. Drug abuse, violent behavior, hypersexuality, and self-harm are often symptoms, not the cause of much bigger issues. And it almost always stems from a childhood filled with trauma, absent parents, and an abusive family. But most people are too busy laughing at the homeless and drug addicts to realize that your own children could be in their shoes in 15 years. Communicate, empathize, rehabilitate. So, I mean, I think there is particularly set aside how you feel about the agenda of the previous administration. If you think about simply the trauma that was inflicted upon us as a country, the bullying, the lack of regard for people who are suffering, the disregard for women and minorities and the disabled and military people who got wounded in combat, all of that creates a trauma that has the potential to have long-lasting effects, as does war, as does abuse, as does neglect, all those kinds of things. We talk so often about alcohol is not the symptom. Alcohol is not the cause, it's a symptom.
It's a symptom of something.
Often, it's a symptom of something larger. In your case, it doesn't seem to be.
No.
In Maz's case, it's the same way. You know, if you are walking up a mild incline, it's much easier to walk up that than it is to look at something that is like this. That's virtually impossible to scale. This is much more scalable. That seems to be what happened to you.
Yeah.
Your alcohol use slowly and unnoticeably
just
scaled
increased.
up. It wasn't necessarily that you were trying to cover up.
No, well, I wasn't working on it or anything. It just
Yeah.
kind of happened. I mean, if you look at the first four statements, alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine are all legal.
Well, and alcohol, of those three, alcohol and caffeine are celebrated.
Yeah.
It's why we have that stupid culture of, oh, it's wine o'clock somewhere. I only have one glass of wine, and the glass is this big. Or all those idiotic mommy wine crap paraphernalia, sweatshirt,
I
pot
forgot you
holder,
don't like this.
garbage. Such an offensive, stupid thing.
But it's also something it's important at this point to remember what a drug is. And caffeine is the most widely used drug in the United States.
You're drinking it.
Yeah.
I'm drinking it. I bet you're drinking it.
Well, there's caffeine in tea too. There's more
That's
caffeine
why I
in
said I'm
black tea
drinking
than
it.
in most coffees. So
Yeah.
there you go.
And I don't think I'm drinking it because of trauma, childhood abuse, molestation, or neglect. I think I'm drinking it because I'm friggin' freezing.
Yeah, me too. And I've been up. I woke up at 3:30 this morning for some reason. I just thought, well, I'm up now. So.
But I think one of the things that I am often critical of American mindset is that we seem to be most comfortable with being reactive, not proactive. So, a great example. I'm not going to get healthy, I'm going to develop diabetes and just take insulin. I'll react when I get to that point versus being proactive and being healthy. And I'm not trying to slag off anybody who's got diabetes. It's just an example. I'm not going to write my assignment that I got assigned the first day of class that's due at the end of the semester. I have 17 weeks. I have plenty of time. I won't proactively work on that paper. I'll wait till the night before and react to that horrific deadline and then be in a complete and utter panic and probably produce something far, far less quality than I could have. Where did it go?
Oh, you still want to listen to it?
Well, I might.
Okay.
So if we were a culture that said, why don't we work to affect neglect? Why don't we work to affect economic instability? We know that economic instability leads to much more difficult home environments. That's not a criticism of those parents. It's a fact. The stress of being poor is very, very real. I was poor. I had education, a family, and I'm white. And I'm in the Midwest. So I had lots and lots of things working for me.
You were a grad student.
But I was still poor.
Yeah.
There was still tremendous stress in my little household of two. I think I've told you this. When Quinn, 2 or 3 days before Maz and I got married, Quinn was 12 years old. Quinn and I were on a bike ride, and I said to him, what are you going to remember about these first 12 years? Because, it was just the two of us for all those years. We never lived with Quinn's dad. He was in the picture, but we never lived together. And Maz and I never lived together. So it was just Quinn and me. And I said to him, what are you going to remember about these first 12 years? Which was the parent-child equivalent to, do I look fat in this dress? I didn't think I had an answer, but I clearly had an answer I was looking for in my mind.
Own child, Dana Kristen.
And without missing a beat, that boy said, well, you yelled a lot. Now, could we please keep in mind that he said that to me almost 13 years ago, almost 14 years ago. You would think I could let that go. I clearly have not let that go. Almost 13 years. Bad math.
Yes.
It hurt my feelings. But it hurt my feelings because it was true. And the only excuse that I can tell you is A, I'm a loud person. And B, a lot of those first 12 years were really stressful. So, again, could we work individually, community, culturally, to try to proactively address trauma, childhood abuse, molestation, neglect, hunger, insecurity, all those things that we know often lead to damaging, dangerous, and addictive behavior down the path, as opposed to waiting until someone is a meth addict or an alcoholic or name your drug of choice and then trying to beat it out of them in rehab. We know that for so many people, rehab doesn't work. But what if we could work on helping people not only not live through some of that, but mentally work through it too? Isn't that a better use of resources?
I mean, communication. If you actually talked about these things and didn't try and hide it, rehabilitation and the fact that some people are ashamed to ask for help.
Because we've shamed them.
Because apparently suffering from a disease isn't always shameful. You don't shame someone if they have cancer. You don't, well, not anymore. We don't have leper colonies anymore. We can treat leprosy. We can treat addiction, but it's still got some shame attached to it. It's a disease.
And wouldn't it be better to try to help people avoid falling into addiction rather than saying, oh, you're an addict? Well, let's mandate rehab.
The communicate would be, why don't we talk about all this stuff? And not hide it.
So I guess the challenge for you today is, if you have someone in your life who you know is living through something difficult, why don't you try to proactively help them work through it versus waiting for it to get so bad that they try to fill that void or cover that shame or scar or damage with something like addiction.
And it's easy to ask them. I think I've talked about this before. You go up to someone and if you,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and you say, "How you doing?" And they say, "Well, I'm fine." And then you just say to them again, "So how are you doing?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they want, you can't force them to tell you, but if they actually are willing to, if they're at that point where they want to say something, then you've affirmed to them that you're willing to listen.
Yep.
And that's the communication.
You just never
part.
know. You never know who you will save by asking again, how are you?
Yeah.
So, have an excellent Wednesday.
One
Stay
kind thought is the
warm.
hope of the world. Someone said that. Don't know who it was, but it's a good statement.
Another quote from Dr. Andrew Masmary.
I have no idea.
Unattributed
No
to
idea.
anyone.
If anyone knows who says that, let me know, because I think that's brilliant.
All right, we're wrapping up. Have a great day. Join us tomorrow. The founders of Hairless Dog Brewing
Oh,
Company are joining
yes.
us. So we're excited to talk to them. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.